Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Founders and Leaders series, where we go in depth in conversation with some of the entrepreneurs and senior executives who are shaping the future of the research and insights technology industry. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Hakan Yurdakul, who is the co founder and CEO of Bolt Insight. Welcome, Hakan.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for hosting this. Very pleased to be part of it.
I'm really pleased you were able to join us. Thanks very much for taking the time. Well, let's kick off. Can you just tell us to start with, like, what is Bolt Insight? Where did it come from? How did you come to co-found the business?
Yeah, so Bolt Insight is a AI native research firm. We have both quant and qual side. We have created the world's first AI native conversational research platform. This was like 3, 4 years ago. It was an AI moderated qual at scale solution. And that's where we see the future of insights. But we have both the quant and qual capabilities, and we believe in the human plus AI side of things. So we believe in the expertise that humans bring, and when matched with AI and technology, that creates the magic.
Interesting. So Bolt Chat was, I guess, one of the first movers in this space. You're saying yours was the world's first. So you predated the generative AI boom, the ChatGPT. You were in market before then. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. AI was there, but it got more popular, obviously, with the ChatGPT and OpenAI. But we were working on this way before that. And originally, our platform, by the way, AI call at scale platform is called Bolt Chat AI. It was even launched as Bolt Chat without the AI. So it was a human to human conversation tool, which was a gap that we've seen in the market. Like, how do we make salespeople, marketing people, or R&D, everyone in an organization more connected with their customers, consumers? And we created the tool, a tool that makes you connect in like 15 minutes with actual customers and have a chat. But that allowed us to create human moderated conversations that we have conducted and then use that to train an AI moderator so that AI does all the interviews. And we were first to market because we had all the infrastructure and expertise and the training data set to be able to create that.
I didn't know that. So you were training and building your own proprietary machine learning approach before the LLMs were really, running at scale. Is that right?
Yes, LMs we still use, by the way.
Yep.
But the best analogy I always give is LLMs are like great high school grads. They speak very well, they're hardworking, they know general topics really well, but you need to send them to college to train on being a researcher. So that's what we do in a nutshell. So we train LLMs, AI, on how to become a really good researcher, to be able to run unbiased, good moderation, understand the cues, and get deeper on topics, do the right probing, and use different expert techniques as well, which is important when it comes to qualitative research.
Okay, so let's just wind back a little bit. We've got Bolt Chat AI, which was trained on Bolt Chat, which was a human-to-human interface, which was part of Bolt Insight, your research business that you founded. Where did you come from before that? What led you into building an insights-focused business?
Yeah, all our co-founders, including myself, come from corporate marketing insights or consulting background. And that makes us really different in the market. We're not just tech people, although we have great tech systems in place. Like our CTO used to be my high school friend. We know each other for 30 years. He graduated from Harvard, then became a software entrepreneur, successful exits in the past, and our paths crossed again and we created Bolt Chat AI. But yeah, I used to work at Unilever, one of the leading FMCGs, for around 15 years. And before that, some pharma experience as well. I was a consumer marketeer, worked across pretty much all FMCG categories. Also, one of our other co-founders worked at Ipsos, and then the other one, Nielsen. Unilever, Reckitt. So we basically say we come from the other side of the table. And that's extremely important because we understand the problems, we understand the gaps. Long story short, together with my co-founders, we always say we have created something that we wish we had when we were doing our corporate roles, having seen and used most of those solutions agencies out there. We basically created the ideal tool that we wish we had.
Yeah, interesting. It struck me when you were describing the human to human original Bolt chat solution. That sounds very Unilever to me, trying to connect, brand teams, marketing teams, innovators with consumers directly. I mean, I think there's other ways in which they've tried to do that through the business. Do you think that was part of your philosophy, part of the culture that led you to build that product?
Absolutely. We wanted to build more consumer empathy, especially in these big corporates. The issue was this was a statistic from 2020, I think, from across all FMCG companies. The average number of face-to-face connections that people had with their consumers were two times in a year. So as you can imagine, all these company people working in big cities, coming from, I would say, relatively privileged backgrounds, trying to sell to mass audiences, you can't really understand your audience well enough by just speaking to them twice a year. That was something that we wanted to change. How do we make it more frictionless, more easier? How do we make it so easy and accessible that they can connect more and more throughout the year so that they make more informed decisions and more empathetic decisions.
Yeah.
However, I mean, it is still human labor, it's still human time and cost involved. And AI brings a lot of efficiencies there. And we have seen the opportunity in terms of when you introduce AI into that, you unlock an unseen, unprecedented scalability into these connections. So instead of doing once or twice a week, you know, can you do hundreds a day? That was the vision, and that led us to Bolt Chat AI.
Okay. And are you working mostly with large brands, so Unilever type businesses right now? Is that where you're finding lots of opportunity?
Absolutely. We are direct to brands. We work with 95% of our clients are large enterprises. Yes, FMCG, due to our background and network, is a majority of our client base, but we are quite sector agnostic. We have some excellent client partners in finance, consulting, durables, tech. So it has a lot of wide use cases. Like we started more with consumer interviews, now we can also do expert interviews. So there's a very wide range of use cases in the industry.
I'm really interested by how the dynamics are changing. Large organizations are connecting people who are not expert researchers, so in marketing, brand, innovation, executive teams. Do you see that those organizations are able to, equip non-researchers with effectively, consumer connection or research capabilities more and more? Are they actively doing it? Is it being successful? What's your take on all of that?
A very good question. I think there are different schools of thought here. I believe that there is a unique expertise and skill that insights professionals bring to the table. They are, I think, with the advancements in this technology, insights teams will become more and more strategists rather than, research project operators, I would say. So the way to add, human thinking and insights into what you see from data is still very valuable. At Bolt, we work a lot on how to add that human touch on top of AI and how to also increase the capabilities of AI as well. But we always say, look, tech is great. We have one of the most advanced, if not the most advanced AI technology out there due to all the training we have provided. We're not just a ChatGPT wrapper or Gemini wrapper. We believe in the importance of that. There are so many systems, processes in place where we continue to do machine learning to AI, where human researchers evaluate AI moderated interviews and feed that back to AI so that it understands what is a good question, what is a bad question that leads to a good or bad answer. So it learns continuously, but still the human element is extremely important. So this is probably a bit of a proprietary information, but I think it's important to give. AI, due to the nature of how it's built at the moment, especially LLMs, it looks for more correlation rather than causality. And that's extremely important point in this space. If you're using just tech and if you're just depending on LLMs, you're probably just getting the correlation. But are you really getting the root cause of things is the real difference. And that's why we always believe in that human plus AI approach. There was a really funny article lately about this correlation and causality thing. They found out that in countries where they eat more chocolate, they are more successful in terms of education and success in exams. You might say, okay, I should eat more chocolate then to become more successful, but that's not the case. So you need to understand the cause of things rather than just simple correlations.
Yeah. There's a fantastic website that documents a lot of these spurious, I think it's called spurious correlations, Tyler Bigland, and he puts together a whole bunch of different, examples like that that are clearly very strong patterns in the data that have absolutely no causal relationship whatsoever.
Absolutely.
So your take on I guess we call it the democratization of insights in the enterprise. It's quite nuanced. You need the human oversight, you need the experience to be able to interpret, overlay, drive the recommendations. But at the same time, you're getting success by equipping marketers, more generalist users to be able to have access to the insights. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, and I realized I didn't fully answer your previous question as well. So in terms of other functions
Mm.
who can use these tools, yes, we are making the systems as easy as possible for anyone to be able to run good research with good confidence in terms of the results. But I think there are different project types and different objectives where you can, yes, as an R&D person or anyone in the organization, you can use these tools to get really good insights fast. But there are some objectives where you would still need an insights professional to understand and distill the information, analyze it, and cross the data with other sources of data to be able to give you the right answers. So again, it's horses for courses. There's like you need to take it case by case. Yes, I think it democratizes massively. So my experience was in a lot of these big product companies, R&D usually don't even have good connection to consumers. And if you think about they're the people who create the products, who fulfill those needs and understand the problems and pains and gains to come up with technical product solutions. If you don't connect them well enough with consumers, you're missing a big opportunity. So in terms of general consumer understanding, absolutely use these tools, makes it accessible. Don't be afraid. I think the biggest problems that corporates have is the silos that they create. Everything is very slow. Everything is on alignment. Innovation cycles take 2 years. By the time you even pass idea stage, startups launch the product and learn, or even trends are passed. So you need to be quick in terms of category understanding, consumer understanding, building consumer empathy. Yes, don't create more layers into getting those insights. But if it's about really complex problems, understanding the market, about packaging, product, pricing, all these more complex things that have more metrics and coefficients involved in finding the answer, then yes, an insights person involvement is extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm really intrigued by how the corporate insights world is evolving with the adoption of AI? Because some of the things that you describe, obviously, there are some amazing benefits there. With, I think, you talked initially about scalability and cost effectiveness, obviously, the speed angle for innovation pipelines, that type of thing. Even, the democratization, recognizing that it's a double edged sword, but it does, it is making things easier. But on the other hand, you said the role of the insights professional is becoming much more strategic, advisory. Is that how, are you seeing that play out in the structure of corporate insights and research teams? Are you seeing changes in the roles and the kind of the remit of the people who are working there?
Absolutely. I think there were too many layers in these big corporates in terms of, marketing teams and how they are structured. There were insights, there were brand development teams, brand building teams, local, regional, global, category teams. So there were a lot of decision makers in the room, which caused a lot of slowdown in the process. I think with AI, and this is a bit of a general comment as well, I think AI has all the expertise and data. So it becomes like you need to be a really good, you know, in some cases, yes, you need to specialize, but in many other cases, you need to be a good generalist as well to be, to know how to use these tools to interpret and come up with the right decisions as fast as possible. So I think that's the change I see moving forward. Of course, it makes things faster, but it's not just that. There were a lot of silos in the past. Like marketing used to find something, send it to sales team. Sales team says, "Oh, actually, I see this in the market." People make decisions when they're on the shelf in store. Nobody knows the real answer. And now I think with the power of AI, you can connect the dots in a much better way, and you can have the most objective person in the room. So treat AI as another, I think, objective view, a person, a workforce in the room who can help you make the right decisions.
Yeah. Okay. So not just about efficiencies and scale and speed and things, but actually being able to make qualitatively better decisions or adding more value. That's what you're starting to see happen.
Absolutely. And I think that brings us to the conversational element. I think we believe at Bolt, research has to be more conversational, period. Because if you look at the history of research, we had door-to-door interviews, we had phone interviews, we had actual human connections in place, and we lost all of that, especially with the online transformation. I think we lose our you know memory and history very quickly. Things change too fast and we forget. But we used to do more door-to-door phone interviews. We listened to people, we tried to capture their emotions, feelings. Now with online surveys, to be honest, it became very much like a blind box ticking exercise. You don't know what that person is feeling while answering those questions. You're force feeding them some answers. Maybe there are many other explanations to what they think, and they have to pick one from that. The whole system with surveys, to be honest, is very much compromised. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we should not use closed-end questions at all. Yes, there are some parts where you would need to frame the questions and answers better and to really quantify what people think. You might use those closed-end questions as well. But doing the whole engagement through these questions is just not natural. Like those who know me probably have heard this, but I often say, do you go to your partner and ask how much do you love me on a scale of 1 to 10? Right? You don't communicate that way. Then why do you do that to your customers, consumers? That's what we're trying to change. And I know this is also a bit controversial and kind of contradictory, but AI can bring back the human conversations into research. So that's why we built BoltChat AI. It was an AI moderated conversational research tool that creates qual at scale. And I know we say still qual and at scale to make it easier for people to understand because it brings the depth of qual with the scale of quant. But what it actually does is it goes beyond methodologies. Like, do we really need qual, quant? If you can speak to people hundreds of them in hours, do you then really need to do even surveys? Yes, there are some advanced methodologies, and that's why like we have our quant team and division as well at Bolt Insight. We can run really advanced analysis and studies from conjoints to max diffs and advanced segmentations and stuff. But even with those, more and more, what we see with our clients is they ask for hybrid solutions. So with, for example, segmentation, we run a quant survey. We define nationwide with big sample sizes the different segments, but then we run bullshit AI with those people to enrich those segments. Who are these people? Because my biggest problem was when you get those, I'm going to continue from segmentation example. When you get those segmentation reports, they are broadly like demographic. Yes, okay, you understand the age, person, kind of interest, but what do these people consume? When? How? What do they watch? What are their hobbies? How is their daily life? You can only get that through qualitative conversational research. So I think research is going beyond methodologies and becoming more hybrid. There's no quant and qual anymore, I think, in the future. And we'll be using more and more conversational engagements to be able to understand people better.
Really interesting. I think the industry needs new language, doesn't it, to kind of move beyond those old paradigms of qual versus quant. It's a different framework.
I 100% agree. I think the initial reaction as human beings, and I do this a lot as well, we always try to compare it with the existing. And is this qual? Is this a new version of that? Or is this quant? How does it compare? What we always say is you don't have to. This is an amazing tool, amazing technology that enriches your toolbox. There are always, there will be cases where you might need still a survey, still a human-led, human-moderated interview. You still need focus groups time to time. Like there are some agencies, for example, using our tool to, like they're qualitative research agencies. They use the tool to understand the broader picture, identify areas to dig deeper. They run bullshit AI, and then they still do their own, in-depth interviews, human in-depth interviews or focus groups. It adds a lot of value. So put all the historical learning aside and try to build your toolbox from ground up. I think that's the biggest change that we need in the ecosystem of research and insights.
Yeah. Okay, fascinating. So we've got these new capabilities. We've got AI driving, much more conversation. We've got changes in enterprise teams, more access to consumers, more, I guess, strategic guidance being provided by the insight function. What are some of the other big trends that you see in the insights and research industry right now? So what's happening that that excites you, that interests you, either on the technology side or on the organizational side?
So, from a technology side, obviously, synthetic personas or personas, I should say, is a big trend. I think industry is still trying to find the right use cases for it. We have also AI personas. We call it dynamic personas, and I'll explain why. I think that's going to be an important part of how we do research moving forward. But it's not the typical synthetic personas I'm talking about. There's a major flaw with synthetic personas. And I think people are, more and more realizing now, which is with synthetic personas, if you create them like you did approach to UNAs, habits and attitudes type of studies, they become outdated so easily. It's like, those early ChatGPT days where the data set was dated, 2 years ago, 2021 or something. That can easily happen with synthetic personas as well. So it is good for categorical type of questions. So you probably don't need to run a new research to find out how many times people wash their hair in a week. You don't need new research for that. But for future forward-looking breakthrough ideas, innovations and stuff, I think going to synthetic personas might not be the best idea in the form of, synthetic personas, and I'll explain what is the next evolution of that. So my again analogy, and I use a lot of analogies to make it simpler for myself as well and the people I talk to. It's like personas, synthetic personas are like, driving a car by just looking at the rear view mirror. You're always looking back. And when you want to innovate, you need more creative thinking. You need more breakthrough ideas and innovation. And to be able to solve that, what we created in our platform is what we call dynamic or live personas, which means you can create personas using the interviews that are in our platform, but also you can upload your own external data to make them smarter and train better. But then what we do is we do regular interviews with people on a weekly, monthly basis to keep those personas updated. And the practice we have is, for example, you're a personal care company in UK. What we do is we actually find out what are the influential markets in that space. Like, for example, for personal care, it would most likely be Korea due to the K-beauty trends, or Japan, for example. We find out new products in there, new trends that are happening, and ask people on a regular basis what they think about those innovations. So we expose them to the future of that category, and all their reactions get captured and used to train those personas on. So you have, whenever you ask a question to that persona, they become informed about more future stuff and what's happening in the market. If there is a election happening, financial crisis, or tariffs being discussed, they're already knowledgeable about those topics, which is very different to standard synthetic persona that was when it was first started and what people still know about synthetic personas. That's very different to this kind of more live approach. And I think that's going to be a big trend moving forward. We're so happy to lead that space. And then our vision is to create the agentic insights platform. We call it the AI Chief Insights Officer. So imagine having your AI innovator, AI marketeer, AI insights officer who can really, you can ask questions whenever you want. If the data exists in the data lake, it will analyze and give you your answers. If not, it will identify the gaps and will tell you, look, I need to speak to 300 people in these markets to be able to come back with an answer to your question. And we'll do that and we'll come back. So that's what we're building. We already have created solutions around, concept generators, idea generators. Already AI can autonomously create the briefs and discussion guides, and all the reporting analysis is focused on answering your objective rather than giving you a one size fits all type of standard reporting approach.
Okay, so what you're describing, the agentic thing, is actually a kind of convergence of both, existing primary research data that you might have collected, maybe also existing corporate knowledge. Would it be, the AI insights agent would have access to all of these different data sources? Is that right?
Absolutely. So the advantage of agentic approach is the connectivity. So I'm glad you mentioned that, which is, yes, it gets you to access, like gets AI to access internal information, but this also allows you to connect social listening, scraping data from forums, get your sales data, other agency data. So once you have that insights agent who can work for you and understands the big picture and your objectives, it will be able to access any source of data that you allow. That means there is a way better connectivity, and that leads to objectivity point that I have mentioned in the beginning. So you don't have silos anymore. It will be able to see your sales data, historical data, and will be able to connect that and create the correlations and causality with the new findings that it has from the new interviews that it runs. And that's extremely important. Like, when I used to do marketing in consumer goods space, the one of the problems was especially with marketeers. We come to a brand, we create some innovations, and then usually the average time you spend in that brand, in that role, is around 2, 3 years. So by the time you launch, you're already gone. You don't see the results of what you have done, what you have created or innovated. And that's why I think even the success KPIs are not are not fairly created and connected. So people are judged based on how many products they launch rather than what is the success of those products. And that causes a big problem. And there's kind of conflict of interest, I would say. And that's the result is, I'm sure many of us have heard about this. Pretty much 8 out of 10 innovations that gets launched, they get delisted in the first 24 months, which is crazy. There's huge inefficiency. And that's something we need to solve collectively as insights industry.
Yeah. Okay. I'm particularly intrigued by what you alluded to, which is the corporate memory, the lack of institutional memory. If someone comes into a role 2 or 3 years, they're moving on before, they've done that, and then a lot of that knowledge is gone. So I guess, these agentic capabilities are going to be much more powerful at harnessing that collective knowledge over time. Is that really what you're suggesting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
AI will become the corporate memory. That's going to be extremely important because people will move on. If you think about the historical, way of doing research, we used to receive PowerPoints that sits in somebody's hard drive and it gets lost when that person moves. And then I have seen many times that we launch products that were tried and tested couple of years ago and nobody remembers about it. Of course, like sometimes there is a better time to launch the same thing. The fact that it didn't work in the past doesn't mean it won't work in the future. But the fact that nobody's even aware of it is, to me, is crazy. So that's something we need to change. And AI, exactly as you say, it becomes the data warehouse of these corporates and can not only give you the raw data but also the analysis and make the connections, and then you can still leave the decision making and should leave the decision making in many cases to humans for sure, but AI will enable that connectivity and memory.
Okay. Also, kind of terrifying for people when there's an AI colleague who's never going to forget anything they did after they've moved on, because I've left jobs where I hope nobody remembers some of the things that I did, but we'll get
Absolutely.
the generations. Look,
Absolutely, yeah.
I could go on. This is really fascinating stuff. I think at the leading edge, your concept of dynamic personas, the kind of convergence of these, deep research capabilities, these AI agents that are pulling things together from different sources. It's a fascinating area. But I'd love to know more about your entrepreneurial journey as well. You came from the corporate world, enterprise, big enterprise. You don't get much bigger than sort of Unilevers and buyers. And you started a brand new business from scratch. What are some of the big lessons that you learned along the way? What are some of the things that you would do differently? Are there any mistakes that you would share about that experience?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm really proud of what I have achieved on the corporate side and building a really good career. And I really enjoyed the journey, like working for some of the best, biggest brands out there is a magical experience. Like what you do touches to billions of people. That's to me is fascinating. And I will always be super grateful that I've had the chance to work for some of these biggest brands out there across different geographies as well. Maybe a quick anecdote about that as well. Like my biggest eye-opener memory of about this was when I was leading one of the anti-dandruff shampoo brands globally. We were doing actually a home visit to some of the customers in Egypt. This was very interesting. We went to this family's house and asked about, why they use this shampoo, that brand. While I was talking to the mother of the family, a 9-year-old boy came out from his room and brought me two 5 milliliter sachets of Clear brand. It was used packs, by the way. And I remember launching those sachets as the trial packs. For us, it was, oh, it's like a trial pack. You get people to experience the product and hopefully they buy the bigger sizes. And then the boy said, I keep these because these were my birthday gifts because I love Ronaldo, because there was Ronaldo's photo on the pack. So for somebody like a marketeer sitting in those ivory tower offices, a trial pack
Yeah.
can become a 9-year-old boy's birthday gift. So I think you can't get this through PowerPoints and presentations and documents, right? You need to talk to people, and that makes a huge difference. And yeah, so coming to my experience, yes, I loved being part of corporate, and that made me who I am now. When I moved to the entrepreneurial side of things, that was also important for me because, to be very honest, in all the teams I've been part of throughout my career, I was always called the crazy kid, doing the things that nobody dared to do and tried the things that nobody tried. So that part of me always was there. And I wanted to bring that to more entrepreneurial side. Looking back at it, moving from corporate expat life in London at close to the age of 40 with two kids in London was a wild decision, I have to say. And the good thing is I don't regret it now. Things have been super successful. We managed to do really new things and breakthrough things and world's first platforms, which fulfills my, personal professional satisfaction. But also the biggest advice is that allowed me to also see really different perspectives as well. Having worked in FMCG for 15 years, you have kind of one way of seeing things. And when now we work with finance companies, consulting, durables, pharma, you see how different companies, different industries do business. And that is really important. So I think wherever you go, entrepreneurial side, career side, I think making some uncomfortable changes, moving out of your comfort zone is extremely important. That would be the definitely the first thing. And the second advice is the networking side of things. Now I see even more. It's so easy to get in with the flow of, work, work, work. I used to work a lot, crazy hours, 16 hours a day. I didn't put so much effort in getting to know more people, do networking, go outside my comfort zone, seeing and meeting new people, going to industry events. That makes a huge difference as well. Every new person you meet teaches you something new. Whether you stay in corporate or move on to startup entrepreneurial side doesn't make a difference. You can still become an entrepreneur inside the big corporate organization as well. And the biggest thing there is the network you have.
Yeah. Fascinating. I think I'm going to say, maybe controversially, your story and journey is not that common for someone who's spent 20 years in enterprise, in corporate, and then successfully transitioned into entrepreneurial growth. It sounds like you were a startup founder, imprisoned in a corporate world in some ways, because my experience has been probably in the past when I've worked for smaller companies and we've hired people from corporate roles to come. Mostly they've found that transition quite challenging and difficult to work in more of a growth led, networking focused, self-starting type environment. So I'm going to say yours is, obviously there are many exceptions to that, but it feels like yours is relatively less common path to take. What about your co-founders though? Because presumably you have co-founders who have come from a similar background, but similarly well suited to the startup lifestyle. Is that right?
Yes, somehow we found each other. So yes, they come from similar paths. So Esther Marchetti We used to work with her at Unilever as marketing and insights partners and grow our brands that we work for. So she also moved from first agency side, like research agency, to brands, and then to entrepreneurial side of things. And yeah, our CTO, my other co-founder, he also used to work for big companies like Coca-Cola, Siemens, really big brands in their mostly IT departments, but then also successfully moved on to the entrepreneurial side of things. So yes, pretty much no, actually all the co-founders are coming from corporate to entrepreneurial side. And I guess that's what connects us, and that's what made it possible. Like we were pretty much in really good collaboration and alignment since the start. That makes us a strong team, and that comes across to our client partners as well. They see the expertise, they trust well because we've been there and done that and gone through similar challenges. And I think that's a huge difference. That's why I also say like we're now a team of around 60 people spanning across pretty much all regions. Like we have North America, we have UK, France, Istanbul, Turkey, and Singapore offices. And what we always say is like when we recruit, what we do is all the client facing people, they are either coming from insight, marketing, or agency or consulting backgrounds. So they somehow have been involved in research and insights, and that makes a huge difference. That's why to our investors or to our client partners as well, if you're looking for just a tech solution, we're not that. Yes, our tech is capable, and you can use it self-serve as well. To clarify, it's completely self-serve capable. It actually is the best solution out there. But whenever you need help, our team is there, who are expert qualitative researchers. They are there to answer your questions, to brainstorm, ideate about the right methodology, the right questions, whatever that AI suggested as a discussion guide, or you need more bespoke storytelling and reporting on top of the AI report. We have a team for you in the same time zone. That's what we want to replicate here as well.
Yeah, fascinating. So it is actually about the human layer wrapped around the technology, no matter how capable the tech is. Hakan, we've talked,
I
and sorry, go ahead. One last thing.
Mike, I call it software under service.
Oh,
So
okay.
not as a service. That's I think the change. That's the other change. I think I believe that's going to happen in the industry. By the way, SaaS will change. If you think tech only will work moving forward, I highly doubt, except a few exceptions. I think because AI can now code, which means you will have a bespoke tailor in-house who can create any software solution for you. So if you're just a tech solution, think again, because companies will be able to create your exact same solution, if not better, that is created bespoke to their needs, pretty much over a couple of weeks, days. What used to take 3 years to develop and code now takes 3 hours. It's unbelievable the change that's happening in tech space. So the real differentiation for all the startups out there is, of course, what you connect in terms of tech. So it's not like just singles, linear solution. So you connect many different parts, many different solutions, and create that connectivity. But on top, the service layers that you have to be able to really create value for all these big enterprise solutions.
Great. Good point at which to close on. We've covered a lot of ground, and we started talking a little bit about the history of Bolt Insight, of Bolt Chat AI. The really some of those big trends that are happening around dynamic personas, around the agentic insights teams, and some great lessons from your startup journey as a founder. And I was thinking as you were talking, I think maybe I've been slightly unfair on Unilever in particular, because I can point to actually quite a lot of people who've successfully come out of Unilever as startup founders and done very well. So maybe there's something about the culture there that really helps support that. But I think that's probably about as much time as we have for our conversation. We could go all day. It has been great. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, Hakan. And best of luck with where you go next with Bolt Chat and the team. And yeah, thanks very much for joining us on the Founders and Leaders series.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really enjoyed the conversation. And for those of you who are watching this, thank you for listening as well. And if you need really AI native research solutions, we're always here to support you.
Right, you can find lots more about Bolt Chat on the Insight Platform's website. Search in the resources, look at their profile page in the directory. We have lots of demos and other content for you to find out more. So thanks again to all of you who have been watching or listening, and do come back for some of our future episodes in the Founders and Leaders series. We have lots more scheduled. We've got some great entrepreneurs and executives for you to learn from. But that's it from us for today. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.